Good.
What's up, guys? It's your girl Zeta Lisa. Welcome to Mama's Cocktail Hour. We are super excited because we have our girl here, Tanya, with Notorious Mom's Podcast. What's up, love?
What's up, ladies?
Yes.
So
Hello.
happy to be here. Excited.
Welcome. Tell us all
Thank
about
you. Thank
yourself.
you. Thank you. Oh, Elise, you're not playing around. You like,
We're not
We
playing. We're
got
just
right
getting
to the question.
started.
God
I was
damn.
like,
she's like,
wait. Okay, at least.
she ain't,
You
she
gonna
ain't
put me on
playing
the guard?
around.
We're not waiting for anybody to come on today. We're
Hey,
gonna tell people get their asses on here now.
that's
Everybody want to
it.
be late to a party. You didn't even let us get on right.
Yo.
She's like, tell us all about yourself, like now.
Okay.
So, um, so I'm a mom, just like you guys. I know all of you guys have children, and I started my podcast, like right after and like during COVID. And I know a lot of people kind of started there because, we had time. I was home. I had a newborn, she was a few months old, and I was looking into like the podcasting, and I was like, hey, maybe this is something that I could do, because I like talking shit. I be talking shit with my friends all the time. We're always on the phone and like group
Facts.
text. And I'm like, hey, maybe this can be like a thing. So my husband is a musical engineer, so we just got all the equipment and we built our little home studio, and the
Oh.
Notorious Moms was born. So at first it was hard because I'm like, oh, what am I going to talk about? And I did a lot of practicing with talking to myself, and that was not going to work because I'm like, how am I going to talk to myself? Right? And I don't have any like interaction. So it was like trial and error. And here we are, 2021. um and that's pretty much it. So it was the
Wow.
birth of my new baby,
I'm
after
Yo,
my new
jealous.
so
You,
baby.
you you got a studio. I'm over here in a corner next to the bed, next to the hamper.
Yeah,
I couldn't
so
breathe too hard. I'm like, don't
so
angle the camera.
it's literally in my house. I have a 3-bedroom home, and it was my husband's music studio at first because he was doing it at home, and then he moved it out. He got a space for his musical recording, and I was like, no, I'm making this into my podcast studio. And I got a couple of things, and it was like poof. It's like one day at a time. And like
that's
the vision,
amazing.
my husband helped me out a lot because he's very he pays a lot of attention to detail, which I don't, because I just be like,
Mm.
okay, I want to do this and let's just make it happen. And he's like, wait, but you gotta think about this, you gotta think about that. And it's literally just a room that I kind of like, we painted it, went to Home Depot, I got a little round table, and that's it. This in the background, like I did it myself. This shelf, I painted it gold. It used to be white. I did the DIY.
I love
Elise,
DIYs.
Yep.
you gave me some ideas. So
Nice.
I was like, hey, and that's pretty much it.
How
That's
And
important
beautiful.
how important was it to have someone, a husband that was so supportive? Because like we all have are lucky enough to have that when we said this is what we wanted to do. Um they helped us. So how do you think that how important that was in in your journey?
it actually was very important because I'm like a doer.
Mm.
I kind of am just like, all right, this is what I want to do. And I don't think about things as a whole, which I'm trying to get better at, because sometimes you do have to think about things as a whole. And I would just like throw out ideas, and I'm like, yeah, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And he's like, well, wait a second. We have to think about this and we have to think about that. So he kind of just like reeled me in. And that was kind of important because sometimes I just get like out of hand.
I don't think it's out of hand. I think that you're super passionate. And I could still remember the first time I found you. So I was
You
on
said
the
you was on the
bus.
bus. Yes.
I was on the bus because I do commute to the city. So I live in Jersey, but I commute every day to the city. So I spend like an hour and 20 minutes on the bus. So I
Mhm.
usually kind of look for like minded women. And when I came across your content, I instantly felt like home with you. Like I felt like
Mhm.
I knew you and I didn't know you. And it was so weird. And
Thank you.
so I instantly sent it to the girls and I was like, yo, this is who we need to start connecting with. Because I'm not gonna front, when we first got on Instagram, you know, all the podcasts that we were following weren't really podcasts that I felt like we could relate to.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until we understood words like find your niche, narrow down, you know, stuff like that, that we kind of started branching out. And when I found your shit, I was so like, I like I said, it felt like home, and it felt like I knew you. So I instantly knew you was from New York. I instantly knew you was Latina. I instantly knew that you were like around my age bracket and you had children. So it was like, it was a great connection. So I love that we're right here right now having this conversation. For me, it's dope. It's surreal. It's like what I was talking about just previously, and that's dope. Like, we're just making all our dreams a reality. You know what I mean?
Right.
I remember too when she sent us your stuff.
Yeah.
She literally got off the bus and she texted us your Instagram stuff, and we looked at it, and it was like so cool, like she said, because you looked like us, you sounded like us, and up to that point we didn't see us. You know, we were like, are we out there? You know what I'm saying? So when we
it was
cool.
Yeah, it was when Zeta reached out, I was like, oh my God, like this is so dope. I showed my husband, I was like, check this out. And I went on your YouTube and I felt the same way. Like, it was very homey. Because like you guys, I also didn't see, because of course my husband was like, you got to do research, you know, when you're doing, it's a lot of research. And I'm like, well, I don't see a lot of me. You know, it's a lot of different people out there, which is super dope as well. But I didn't see a lot of me. So I'm like, is this even a thing? Like, are people going to even like me? And then I kind of got into the phase where it's just like, well, if they like me, they do. If they don't, they don't.
Right. And I agree. I think we go through that a lot too, because you already know we from New York, so we could be a lot for a lot of people.
Yes, that's I get that a lot too. Sometimes I just gotta zip it because I don't know when to just sometimes you just gotta be quiet.
You done walked into a shit show when you came from backstage.
Right.
But it be like that, because it's just like getting shit together. It's a like this has really shown me a little bit more discipline, because it really is a process.
Yep.
Like, and just trying to get things up and running, trial and error. It really is a process.
Yeah.
And
it's like a second job.
I don't know about y'all, but prior to doing all of this, I don't know how many times I would talk shit about anybody who was considered an influencer. I was like, these people get paid to do shit all day. And not for nothing, it's work. It's not like, oh, put something together and it's going to be done with.
Nope.
It's work.
It's literally like a second job.
It's a second job, completely a second job. And then if you want to make this job your real job, you got to put in all levels of work, administrative work, marketing, actual creative work. There's shit. I was telling Jasmine, I just had this conversation with her. There's shit I don't want to do, that I'm like, yo, I don't want to do this shit. You know, can I just get it somewhere, talk, and let my personality sell itself?
I feel the same way. Or I'll be like, can I just hire somebody to do this for me? But it's just like, nah, that's not gonna work either.
I'll tell you,
I think we need to hire somebody.
Yo, I learned so much stuff that if you would have told me a year ago, I would have been thinking about reels and all this Instagram stuff. I would have been like, yo, that's for kids. You know what I'm saying? And now it's like, no, we have to do this and we have to do that. And it's good because like we are doing what we want to do and we're passionate about it. And the fact that we even have the opportunity to do it is awesome. It's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I also like when we connect with women that look like us and are having similar situations like us, because maybe we'll encourage them. Maybe podcasting is not their thing, but maybe there's something else they're passionate about.
Right.
And they didn't think they'll have time for it because they think that this is their role. And we're kind of inspiring them and letting them know, yo, you could do both or three things and still be considered, you know, a good mother, a good wife or whatever. So, but it's a lot of work. Because I said, if I turn this camera around, you're going to see mad laundry.
I did my bed before we came on, so let's not.
I don't think my bed is even done right now, but whatever. I'm about to get into it in a little while, so
Exactly. It is what it is. So tonight's topic, guys, is
It's
how long
juicy.
is too long to wait for a ring on both sides. And what we mean by that is on the man side and on the woman side. So let's have that conversation, guys. Who wants to start it up? Let's let T start it up today.
Oh
Since
my
you on
God.
Mama's. Okay, so hold on. Before we start, what is everybody drinking? Drop it. Let's know. It's Mama's cocktail hour. I want the people to know what we drinking.
Well, I already
Jasmine,
told
don't.
y'all I'm drinking water because it gets hot in here and then I'll be sweating. So I need something cool. But
All right.
usually on a different day, I'll be having a margarita.
I
My
like
kind of
that.
drink.
That's my favorite.
Tequila and me are friends.
Yes, ma'am.
Jazz, what you drinking? I'm scared to know.
I'm drinking a Carvel chocolate milkshake.
Ooh.
Thank you very much.
Oh.
That hit different spots. It definitely did.
Yo, sometimes it be like that. You
I already know what that means. I am drinking Jam Jar. I have been drinking Jam Jar for the last 45 minutes. So cheers to that.
What's Jam Jar? That's a wine?
Girl,
good,
it
yeah.
is a really good wine. Let me tell you, it is the best $9 that you will ever spend.
Oh, I gotta look it up.
That shit is $8.99, girl. It's called Jam Jar.
Red. It's a sweeter red wine. That's so
See,
chill.
Elise very, she's very bougie with it. She can tell you that it's a sweet Shiraz. I don't know what it is.
I'm not bougie with
No.
my because my wine that I love is $12.
But wait a minute.
What wine is that?
The wine
They
that
live
I
in Jersey, so it's $8.99 for them. It's probably $15.99 for us.
love-
Jasmine, where you at? You in New York?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
I'm in New York.
That's for sure.
Right?
It is
It's
a
probably a little bit more
expensive.
expensive. Yeah. Everything is
damn,
more
I just-
expensive in New York.
I'll just bring it on the bus to y'all bitches. That's too much. You be paying $15, you could get 2 bottles.
I got
Girl.
the same jar in the city for like $15, but here I'll get it for like 12.
That's a fact.
Yeah, and
New
that's
York,
why-
everything is more expensive.
Hell yeah. But
Okay.
today I'm boring. I'm drinking soda.
What you got?
Diet
It's
Coke.
hot outside. Diet Coke.
Yeah.
Because that's what I had in my refrigerator. Why? I don't know.
And that's what's working. All right. So now that we know what everybody's drinking, these non-alcoholics, I'm the only person drinking alcohol here.
It's all good.
Let's bring it to my girl T. So what do you think about the topic for today?
Oh, so I think it's a great topic. But I really feel like, this topic is really subjective because everybody has different expectations of when, marriage should be brought to the table. So like in my experience, I've only been married for a year and a half. I'm very new to this. Yes. So I've been with my husband. I've known him since 2008.
Okay.
And we've only been legally married for, going on 2 years. So it was just weird. Like I had a number in my head because I feel like women usually do.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I sometimes think that unfortunately we're a little programmed that way sometimes, you know what I mean? And I think culturally, like our families, that's kind of like the expectation. You meet somebody and the next step is marriage. That doesn't work for everybody though. So I had a number in my head. I'm like, okay, after 2 years, 2 years. Okay. 2 years was my number. I'm like, okay, if I'm not engaged and married in 2 years, then he gotta go. But as you can see, 2008 to 2021, he didn't go anywhere.
So what made you want to move to that? What made you guys get married now at this point? Like,
so
what took so long? Is what I was
finally
saying.
Figured out. Like we had a lot of like trials and tribulations in our relationship. Because I was in a previous relationship, I had a child from a previous relationship, and during our getting to know each other phase, it was just really difficult. Like we had different jobs, we were on different schedules, so it was really hard. And then we kind of figured out like, all right, well, I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. So why not just make it official? And we did. Well, so this is my story. So the wedding was planned. The
What?
wedding was planned. Like I have
you or by other people?
No, by me.
Okay.
By me and him. But my wedding dress is sitting like in a box in the closet because I never got to wear it because I came out pregnant. So I turned my wedding into a baby shower. And we went to City Hall and we got hitched.
There you go.
I love that story though.
Yep. So I had the hall, I had the dress, I had my bridesmaids, I had everything. I had everything planned. And then on St. Patrick's Day, we found out we were expecting. And I was like, well, we still gonna have a party, but there's gonna be a baby shower. And that's what we did.
I love that story.
Nice.
That is so cute. That is so cute. I know,
So
that's crazy.
So 2 years, that was my number, but I think that number, it's between like 2 and 5. But I also feel like when you meet somebody, you kind of know, like eventually you're gonna be married. Eventually.
I mean, I think like what you said, like I think it's subjective because of the other individual. Right. And it depends like how transparent you guys are in your relationship, because I can remember being in my 20s and not really being as comfortable as I am now in my relationship with my 30s being married. So the conversations that I feel like I'm so easy to have with my husband now, I'm not sure if I would have been able to have that in my 20s.
No.
Yeah.
So because there's a level of maturity and confidence that we start to get as we get older, because before we're like, oh, what are we doing wrong? Maybe I'm not pretty enough. Maybe I'm not skinny enough.
That's a fact.
That's all the shit that I was going through internally. So I wasn't even thinking that maybe this nigga isn't mature enough. You know what I mean? Maybe it's him. But I used to internalize a lot. So I was in a relationship for 3 years before I met my husband. And this guy, he was very handsome. He was everything. And then but I felt like he would always make me feel as if I wasn't good enough. Like, oh, you need to change up the way what you wear. You need to change up this. I would rather see you in this. So I started to internalize all that. And then I used to think that there was like, and I was with him for 3 years. I thought that there was something, but then towards the end, I started to realize like, he had never really said anything concretely, like not even like moving in. Like he would talk about it here and there. But I think because I was so immature, I was trying to push that shit out of the way. I was trying to be like, but he said this. And I was trying to rationalize and make excuses. And it finally got to a point where I started to understand like this isn't going to go anywhere. So I think a lot of time as women, I know I speak for myself, is that I think, like you said, we see the signs, but the level of maturity that we're at that point is not going to allow us to fully see the signs.
And confidence.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And confidence, and that's because we don't know better.
Right. And, as human beings, we're constantly evolving. You think back to your 20-year-old self at 30, and then when you're 40, you're going to think back to your 30-year-old self, and you always want different things. Like, people change. And it's like the way you feel about yourself changes, your confidence changes, sexually, you want different things. It's like, it's a constant evolution. So, and that's just us as human beings.
Right.
Like I was in a relationship like that too. And it didn't work out because of that same thing. It's like, hey, is this me? Is it me?
Yeah.
But no, it's him. And unfortunately, men mature a little bit later than we do.
Yep. It's so true. It is so true.
So my story actually might not be how y'all think. So I was also with my son's father. I was in a relationship for damn near 13 years. And like I've talked about before, he wasn't the best person, but I was young, I was immature, I had my own issues. And so I dealt with it because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. That's what I deserved. And he never gave us stability. He made a lot of false promises. And towards the end, I realized I was never going to be like his wife. but I acted like his wife. He expected things from me like his wife, right? So when we finally parted ways and I met my husband, I knew right away my husband was different. And I knew the relationship was going to be different. But I still carried that insecurity and that fear and that baggage from before. So when we ended up getting pregnant and he eventually moved in, I pressured him to get married. He didn't want to get married because he had been married before. And when I say pressured him, I meant that I kept bringing up marriage because to me, I was like, well, before I let things slide, right? I kept going with the punches and I kept giving him the benefit of the doubt and him the control. So this time I'm going to put my foot down. This time I'm going to let you know what my expectations is. But looking back now, I realized that I wanted to get married, not because I wanted to get married, because I didn't even know what the hell marriage was. I wanted to get married because I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And it was going to somehow avoid me from going through what I went through last time. And he had been in a relationship, he had been married, he didn't have any children, and it didn't end well. So I didn't even take into consideration that he had his own baggage he was carrying from that marriage. And so I internalized that because, again, I didn't have no self worth. I still have my issues. What's wrong with me? Well, you married this woman and she wasn't the greatest to you. Why can't you marry me? I have your child. I gave you your firstborn child. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it was like 2 years of fighting. And finally, we went to counseling with my pastor, I guess premarital counseling, and we weren't even engaged. And that saved our relationship because in going through that and figuring out, first of all, learning through faith what our marriage meant, what was how we wanted to have a marriage if we got there, but we also started to unpack our own individual issues, and we started to go through our hurt from the past and the hurt we were causing each other. And through that process, I learned what marriage meant. You know, it's not just a wedding. It's just not like, you know, a dress.
Right.
It's just not having his last name, but like, oh, I'm going into a full-blown partnership with somebody for the rest of my life. And I have to get myself right before I can commit, and he has to get himself right. So we went to couples counseling for 2 years.
Wow.
2 years.
Wow.
And it was the best thing that we could have ever done because I believe that fuck even being married. If we would have not went through that, we would have never been together. Not because we didn't love each other, but because we were too damaged. We were too damaged. We were too hurt. We were too scared. And finally, my anxiety went down and it happened when it happened. He proposed to me when he wanted to propose to me. And I had the security of knowing that when he did it because he wanted to, because he was ready, and not because I was nagging him like I had the years before. Our wedding was like yours, kind of. We had planned to get married. Things happened. Next thing you know, we decided to get married from a Monday to a Saturday. We got married in the church. A couple of people showed. It was like the hottest day in July. It was like a week that we had 100 and something degrees temperature. My pastor was sweating. My hair curled. All we did was get married in the church, and then we ate in the diner. And I was the happiest. But again, like you say, it is maturity. I really think that people really need to understand what marriage is for themselves, and you need to figure out what is the expectation in marriage with your partner. And that's why I say it's better that it happened now in my 30s when I was open to learning than in my 20s, because it would have been a disaster. I didn't understand. People think relationships or marriage are just like, oh, we're gonna be best friends forever. No. One day you're gonna be a best friend. The next day you want to kill his ass.
That's
You know
a
what I'm
fact.
saying?
Yep.
Then you're gonna love him again.
A little bit.
I think I went through that. I think I went through that 2 times with my husband today.
See?
It is. It's work.
I was giving him that evil eye, like.
Yo, some
No,
days
it's
you
legit
love them,
work.
you want to hug them. You want to hug them. You're like, yo, you're my best friend. And then there's days that you be like, yo, if you don't get away from me, I think I'm gonna catch a case. Like, no way.
It's so true.
That's a fact. It really is.
It's so true.
It is.
It's so true. That's why I love having conversations about my relationship with women in their 30s, because I so remember having conversations in my 20s or my early 20s about relationships, and the advice that I used to get was like crazy. So it's so crazy to speak to like-minded women about struggling and there be no judgment, because I think that's a lot of the reason why people don't have conversations like this, is because they're afraid they're going to be judged. You know. And
That's
for you to say, for you to say, Jazz, that you almost pressured him, like that's some real shit. Like I don't think that there's a
I
lot
didn't
of
almost
women.
pressured him. I pressured him for a really long time until the pastor was like, you need to slow down. Like it was fight. You know what I'm saying? I did. I will take ownership of that. I pressured him.
You a persistent ass bitch, yo, for real.
I am. It's a good thing and a curse. But I know that.
I know that personally. I know that personally.
But you know what though? I'm glad though that I got that somebody checked me, because I would have always lived thinking that he did it because I made him, not because he wanted. And you know, as a woman, we don't want
you don't want that looming. You don't want that looming over your head. Like, did he really want to marry me? Or because I was on his ass that he married me?
Yeah.
Exactly. I did a little bit of pressuring too, but basically mine kind of went like, if we don't get married, you gotta fucking go. That was it. That was kind of it. It's like, yo, shit or get off the pot. Because ¿qué pasa? Like what we doing here? You know, what we doing here? You know what I mean? Because like you, Jasmine, it's like, you know, I don't know what it is about like women or like Latina women, but we go into like wife mode even when we're not married. It's like, you know, all right, we're gonna do this and we're doing this, and it's like, but wait a second, where's my commitment? Where's my ring?
And I think that's what the problem is. They're like, why even bother of solidifying that commitment when they're giving it away already without even having to put in the work?
What's the saying? Why buy the cow when you're getting the milk for free? Exactly. You're already getting the milk. Yep. Why are you gonna purchase the whole cow?
Right. Tell me that. Caliente. We warm it up for them.
Con poquito chocolate. All of that. So it's like, why am I gonna make you my wife when you already, you know? And sometimes people, like, another thing about marriage too is that people don't want to, like, it can also be like financial. You know, people don't want to get hitched to a fucked up wagon, and that's the truth. You know what I mean? That's a fact. You don't want to get hitched to a fucked up wagon because y'all solidify this shit, but everything else that comes with that, which is dead or fucking child support, baby daddy drama, mama drama, all that shit, you got to deal with that.
No, that's facts.
So that's why, and legally. That's why you got to have legally, exactly. Right. That's why you have to have these conversations and be very transparent, like way in the beginning. I think when it comes to like marriage and also children, because some people don't want to have kids either. That's another thing. A lot of people, that's just not their thing.
Yo, you know when I knew shit got real? When the shit got real being married, the first time we had a real argument when we like were married, and I realized I couldn't send him nowhere. Like I literally I bought it.
Because where you gonna go?
Yeah, I was like, I can't.
Where you gonna go?
Like,
to a different room.
No, it's true. I can't send him nowhere. Like he took his ass to the living room. Like where is he going?
That's it.
That's grown people shit.
You get mad. What do? You go to the next room. You breathe that shit out. Calm down.
Or sit outside. Usually I sit outside. I go right in front of my house and I sit outside. I'll be like, I just need 1 motherfucking minute.
A moment, right?
That's just give me a moment, because you know we're not just wives. You know, we have kids, we have jobs, you know, we have the housework and the shit, and it's just like, you know, we have our families outside of our husband and our kids, you know, which that can also be strainful sometimes on a marriage.
You're talking about mass stressors, Spanish families in relationships. Oh my God. Even if you have the most supportive family, it's still because your extended family still thinks now that they're still your immediate family. They don't.
That's a fact. Yeah. That was a struggle. I still struggle. Like, that's gonna be another topic for another day, because my mother is I love my mother, but she thinks that she's number one still. And it's like, hold on, espérate. You gotta take the back seat just a little bit. I'm still gonna be your daughter, but my husband and my kids come first.
Oh no, they don't.
That's
girl.
they don't believe in that.
Nope.
Not no Puerto Rican mother.
Nope,
That's
I'm your
right.
mother.
Yeah.
And I was here first. And me and your brothers and sisters, we always gonna be here. But I'm like, Ma, I'm married. Like I have a whole husband. Okay, but I was here first. Like I'm always gonna be your mother. And I'm like, okay.
That's the conversations we have all the time. I'll be like, I gotta breathe. And I just gotta remember.
Yeah.
Is your mother married?
Well, my mother was married. So she was married to my father. They were married for 27 years. And then they got divorced. And then she met someone else. And they were together for like 17 years. But my mother hasn't been like in a relationship for like 15 years. She's been by herself. And she's like, I like it that way.
Yeah.
That sounds
She's
like
like,
a mom
I don't
thing
want.
to say.
She's like, I like it this way. And I'm like, whatever floats your boat, you know?
Yeah.
But my mother's already like 66 and she's set in her ways. And she's just like, forget it. I ain't getting married to nobody. If I meet somebody, you in your house, me in my house, and that's about it. It works for her.
True. It's true. It gets to a point. My mom's 75, so my mom is older. So she got out of a very toxic relationship. She was with my father for almost 20, 24, 25 years, and she is alone. So I think for me, it kind of just makes me value my marriage, because to think about having to start over in your 60s, and you so used and accustomed to, you think about it, you so used and accustomed to probably the smallest thing, like sleeping with your husband in a bed. You know what I mean? Going from that comfort to not having that. Like there's some days where I could be pissed at my husband and shit, but like I get this moment of anxiety or I'm scared and I'm like, I want to be up under him. So to think that, you know, she's not gonna have that, like, and she expresses like seeing older people and that being, and you know, not having like to, you know, to see a grandma and a grandpa together. She says she sees old people holding hands and it makes her sad. And so I think it's dope that we as women can talk about our issues, especially when it comes to marriage, because I guess the end goal is really to grow old with your husband. And no relationship is perfect. And when we start normalizing to talk about things like this, as women, we can grow. I think you said in a podcast one time that I was watching, Tanya, was that we could be real stubborn.
Yes.
And a lot of times we can't see our faults. So
very true.
And a lot of times, if you don't have people around you who are good people, worthy people, people that you could talk to, who can check you and be like, yo, you're wrong. You know what I mean? Then you're never gonna really grow.
Right.
So I think it's dope that we have this platform, that you have Notorious Momz Podcast, that we have Mama's Cocktail Hour, because we're able to share, elevate, and grow all together. Because I mean, I can't imagine, you know, not having that when you're in your 70s. You don't have a very long time to go.
Right.
Yeah, but
nobody wants to grow old alone.
Though.
But can I say something? Like, back in the day, marriages and the women that were in the generation before us, the reason why they are still married, or sometimes, or this is just my opinion, you know, they put up with a lot of shit.
Yo,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They dealt with a lot of stuff. Like, I've heard stories about like men having whole separate families and this, that, and the other. And I just was talking to my friend about you know, just like, how do you do that? You know, and then how do you, I mentioned Hillary Clinton. I was talking about Hillary and Bill and that whole scandal. And I'm like, yo, how she stood next to that man, like holding his hand and supporting him through the whole shit. Like, how do you do that? That's a really hard pill to swallow.
Right. And still stay with him even after his presidency and all that nonsense.
That's a fact.
Well,
That's a fact.
You know what though? Before, when I was younger, right, I would look at the situation and I would be like, how she's with him? That's so embarrassing, right? But now that I'm married, right? We don't know what's happening internally in that relationship.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
We don't know the conversations they've had. We don't know the work they've done. We don't know.
Right.
And So it's now as an older, I would be like, wow, I may not have been able to handle it, but I don't know now as an adult if something happened like that to me with me and my husband, because I think about our foundation. I think about everything that we've gone through, everything we've built. So don't get me wrong. Don't come at me and say I'm condoning cheating, because my husband knows that that's not a thing. But we got to be realistic. You got to look at the entire situation. You got to look at the entire relationship and figure out, okay, was this a one and done? Like, is this something that can be salvaged? Or is this a common pattern? Or he's just a player. He's going to keep disrespecting me. Like, you really
Right.
have to look at it, especially when you have years invested and overall you have a good relationship.
I think that's absolutely correct. I also think getting to the root of the issue is also something that's important, because you don't want to keep coming back to the same issue. So it's important, and that just doesn't have to do with cheating. That's with anything. With anything. If you have problems in your relationship with communication, with one person being more angry than another, one person always being moody, like, that's something that needs to be addressed. Like, you have to get down to the root. What is making you feel that way? Why do you feel that way? And really having those conversations, because I think a lot of times we get into our ego, we get into our emotions. We really, the pride won't allow us to, and I know that's me. I speak for myself to say my pride is like my biggest thing. And when I feel like you're gonna disrespectful to me, or you trying to disrespect me, because I'm the sweetest person in the world, but the moment I feel like you're not loyal, or I can't trust you, or you moving shaky, no, then it's like I'm gonna cut you off. So I have a lot of pride as a woman, and I also have to let some of that go, because it'll fuck up, communicating, being open, shit like that.
Vulnerability.
Yes, pride.
You can't be vulnerable. You can't be vulnerable
Pride is hard.
if you're prideful. And I learned that because as a single mom, Tanya, as a single parent, when you young, when you raising you do everything. You used to being like, I got it. I don't care.
Yes.
Right. And even though I was in a relationship with my son's father, he really wasn't there, So it's like I held everything down.
Right.
So to now come into a relationship and open up and be vulnerable to somebody, that scared the shit out of me. And it made me even more prideful, more I don't need you. And you can't be in a healthy relationship and constantly tell somebody you don't need them.
I'm so guilty of that. Oh, that's just terrible.
You can't, because you gotta think about it the other way around. Like, imagine he keeps telling you, well, I got it, I don't need you. Like, oh well, like, so what? If you hear, you hear. If you're not, you're not. We don't want to hear that. And I had to understand that for him, he don't want to hear that either. He wants to be wanted. He's a man. He wants to be needed and feel like, okay, she could do it, but she could also understand that I got it. And that was hard, because I'm a very proud woman. I'll do it. I'll figure that shit out. I don't care if we sit in the dark. It'll be our own apartment, though. Even if we eating white rice.
White rice.
I don't care. We'll be eating white rice in the dark, but it'll be ours. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I struggle with that. That's one of my struggles now in my marriage till this very day. Because I'll be quick to be like, well, fine, I'll do it my motherfucking self. I'll be like, well, I'll do it myself. I don't have a problem. Like, but then it's the vulnerability for me, because I hate being vulnerable, because like you, Zeta, like when I feel like somebody's trying to play me, I go into like a different kind of mode. And it's just like my attitude and everything just be like on 1,000. And sometimes I have to sit and be like, all right, let's be rational here.
You gotta be like,
I gotta talk myself off the ledge, because I be ready to like flip the fucking tables over.
Yeah.
Because relationships are difficult. Yeah, it'd be like that.
No, relationships are extremely difficult.
You know why? Because I know for me, I was raised by a single mom. So my mom, guys, is only 53. She had me at 15. So she is very, very much Iron Woman, hear me roar. So in her mind, she put that is our house, our kids. You figure it out, because men are gonna come and go. Right? So it's your house, your kids. So then I add that with the experience of what I had with my son's father. It was just ingrained on me. They're men. You can't count on them. They're good when they're good, and then most of the time they're bad, and you keep it moving. But there is actually so much love and connection that comes when you guys are both ready to kind of be open and let each other in. There's a security, I know, at least that I reach with my husband, that even if we get mad at each other, even if we're not speaking, I know he's not going anywhere. I know that he's my person because he knows everything about me and I know everything about him, and we've talked, and he knows everything about me. And I never thought we could get to that because I was scared if I shared too much about myself, he wouldn't like me. And the same vice versa, right? So vulnerability is scared. I talk to the girls all the time about it. It's the scariest thing. It really is. But somebody got to take the first leap.
Yeah. You see, and with me and my family, I feel like I had mixed messages where marriage was concerned. You see, for my mom, I didn't really have like a strong definition as to what marriage should be like. My mom and my dad ended up getting divorced when and I say divorced because they weren't legally married, but they got divorced when I was maybe about 10. Both my grandparents, they both had 2 marriages already, and they were far apart. So I didn't really get to see what a marriage was really consisted of.
Right.
Then I got pregnant twice prior to me marrying my husband. And one of the first things that they said was, "Oh, you're pregnant, you should get married." And in my head, I was like, that shit is crazy. Why would you get married because you're pregnant? I mean, granted, in a perfect world, you would hope that you get pregnant by the person you love. And I had both my kids at, I shouldn't say both of them, but I had my daughter when I was 19 and I had my son when I was 21. And I did not end up with their father.
Right.
So my husband came in, and at that time I was 24. So, and it was a long distance relationship. So it was something that was different. So the talk of marriage, although he would tell me very early on while we were long distance dating, that he would ask me constantly, marry me. But it was something that was just very like part of the conversation.
Casual.
How early did that start happening, Elise?
Yeah.
It was maybe a few months in that he would say, yeah, because I didn't go and physically see him because I had kids. I was like, I'm not going to go and see you right away. Right. You're not going to see my kids right away, and I'm not going to have them go see you right away. But I didn't physically go to see him until I knew that, all right, this is pretty solid. And it was 6 months in. So by that time, we were already talking about I love you. Although everybody around me looked like I was fucking crazy. They're like, how do you love somebody that you've never physically met? But 6 months in, and we finally met, and obviously still love each other. But we didn't get engaged until 4 years in.
Ooh.
We didn't get engaged until we were 4 years in, and we didn't get married until 6 years in. And we probably still wouldn't have gotten married if it weren't for his mom, because we were too busy worrying about the logistics of a marriage, of a wedding. But and even then, it was like, okay, we finally ended up getting married, but that was 6 years in, and that was for a long distance relationship. But the concept of marriage was that of, very much so, where it was always ingrained in my head that you had to be prepared for him to leave. So that if shit got bad, you had a way out and you didn't depend on him.
I don't think I ever asked you, where did you get proposed at?
In Puerto Rico.
Really?
We went on a family trip. He took me along with his family to Puerto Rico, and we went on a trip together, and he proposed to me in the hotel room. It was actually kind of funny.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
That is, but you know what's so funny is that I've known Elise forever. Elise, we've known each other for like 11 years, and I don't think
Yeah.
I've ever heard your engagement story. So,
Yeah.
did Justin ever talk about marriage prior to? Because you said 4 years, right? Did
Right.
you give yourself a cutoff time? Was there talks of marriage in between? Like, did you throw it out there and he?
There was always talks of marriage. Like I said, like he would always ask me to marry. Like he's like, marry me, and I'd be like, tomorrow.
Oh,
Like
okay.
so,
I
and
got
I'd be
it.
like, okay, marry me tomorrow. And it was funny because my sister actually started dating her now husband right around the time right before he and I got engaged. And my sister, a few months in with her boyfriend, was talking about marriage. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. You only been with him for like 2 months and you guys are talking about marriage. I was like, that shit is fucking bonkers. Get the fuck out of here. And I remember telling my husband, I was like, if she ends up getting married before me or engaged before me, I'm gonna be so fucking pissed off.
That's when the nigga went to go buy the ring right there. I'm letting
No,
you know.
I had that conversation with him. And he tells me after the fact when we got engaged, he was like, "You were telling me that conversation, and I was sitting in bed with the ring in my hand."
Oh,
So
smart man.
So he was already going to propose to me.
He was prepared for that
He was
shit.
prepared, so he was
He
busy
better
probably
have.
sitting in bed laughing his ass off, like this bitch doesn't know that I'm gonna ask her ass to marry me, but
Officially.
But my sister still ended up getting married before me.
I remember that.
But he proposed before.
He proposed before.
So he was still in the.
I think the jury's still out on that because my sister told me that her husband, they bought rings together and had them put away and stashed away at some point or another. Whether it was before or after I ended up getting engaged, I don't know, but they had it.
You know, your sister always trying to. Every sister is always trying to be like, no, bitch, it was me first.
And it's funny because I think growing up, they would say Elise is probably going to be the one who ends up getting married first.
I can see that.
Because I was a typical girl who dreamt about their marriage, and in my head, even though I was so obviously I shouldn't say obviously I'm Catholic, but my family was very loosely religious. We did the sacraments, although I did mine real late in life, but we did the sacraments, and then that was it. We didn't go to church every Sunday. We didn't do all that other stuff. But in my head, I was just like, if I'm going to get married, whoever I'm getting married to, I'm sticking with for the rest of my life. That's it.
Yeah.
I looked at marriage like that's a commitment. If I'm going to tell you yes, I meant yes. And you're going to be stuck with me just as much as I'm going to be stuck with you. And we're going to fucking figure it out, whatever that may be, if shit got rough. And that's what it was. Because if you decided that you wanted to marry me and my kids, because I was a package deal, you better make sure that that's what you want. Because the moment I decide to like let you go, it's that I'm letting you go. So you had to be on the same page, and that's what it was. But marriage, I mean, I don't really think that there's a concrete number that you can use for somebody. It's not. Yeah. It's not straight up across the board. My sister, she was married within a year of being with her husband. They got married literally on their 1-year anniversary. For me, yeah.
Yeah, and some people just know. Like there's some men and some women that they just meet someone and the stars align and they're just like, man, I'm gonna marry you, and and then that's what it is. But some people, it takes time. It takes time because it's a lot. Marriage is a very, very, very big commitment. And I always say, if I ever get divorced, I ain't never getting married again.
I'll find me a good one.
I'm never getting married again.
But that's it.
It's a lot of emotion. It's
not
a lot
doing
of
it.
Yeah. And for me, for my husband and I, he had a logistic conversation with me before he proposed. Like he dead ass asked me. There was a conversation before the actual thing because I think my husband already had children from a previous marriage, and so for him it was him just making sure that it was right. Like, you know, like, and that we were going to be on the same page. So me and my husband kind of rekindled our love. Like we dated when we were 13 years old. He was my first boyfriend. I went to college. He went to the military. He ended up getting married. He ended up having children. And then one summer came back home, and him and his wife were separated. They were getting a divorce. And then we kind of rekindled our love. And I ended up going to North Carolina for a couple of months and doing school while he was in the military. So I lived out there for a couple of months. And during those, like, that was my first time ever living with a man. So it was like me adapting to that, me adapting to the freedom. And now that I think about it, there was a lot of sex. And I'm like, God, how did I have all this energy?
Yeah.
And
I think about that shit now. I'm like, damn.
Did all of y'all live with anybody at any point prior to getting married?
Yeah, I lived with Sean before I got married.
Yeah. I lived with my husband before we got married. I had to, because I'm like, wait, I gotta test drive this car before I take it out the lot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you that right now, because I couldn't, like, you know, it was, I wouldn't say it was frowned upon in my family, but my sister kind of went with the traditional, you know, she met her husband, they got married, they moved in together, and then they had children. I did everything backwards. But I was like, no, I'm not about to move. I'm not about to marry somebody. And what if I don't like certain no, we got to live together. So we were living together for 2 years before we got married.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. You definitely have to spend that time. And I learned so much about my husband before I moved in with him. Like, I already knew that, you know, certain things like that you learn right away. Like, okay, he's OCD. He's color coordinating shit. I'm throwing shit over here.
Throwing your ass out.
Maybe like
no, he's over here like, yo, this is the red section. This is blue. I'm like, nigga, that's whatever section I could fit the shit in. You know what I mean?
I love it.
I'm the same way.
But let me tell you, when he did propose, he was the most nervous he ever was. And I think it was only like maybe 6 months into our relationship he proposed. Wow. And he proposed on Christmas Eve. And
you got proposed on Christmas. That's when I got proposed on Christmas Eve.
Really? Wow. So yeah, he proposed on Christmas Eve. And I remember my mother being like she saw me and she was like after, and I didn't tell her nothing. And she was like, so he proposed to you? Like, she already felt it. Like, she already knew. So it was crazy. So yeah, I say I agree with you guys. I don't think that there really is a number, but what I do definitely, my advice is that you have that conversation. Like, there has to be a solid conversation about what do you guys want from a relationship. You know what I mean? Whether it's sex, like you said, or just sex and it's platonic, or if it's marriage, or if you're someone who already got kids and you like, yo, I don't want to have kids anymore. That's a conversation that needs to be had. And if you guys are willing to compromise, then both people have to agree and stick to those terms.
Right.
And finances are something that I feel like you
have
to talk to.
Very big.
Very big.
That's a topic that it's like one of those non-negotiables. Like, okay, so it's babies. Do you really want to get married?
Religion sometimes.
Religion,
Yep.
because that's a big factor. If you especially if you're having kids, because it's like, oh, are we gonna raise our kids a certain, religion? How we're gonna do that? Right. And then finances.
Oh, another, where you living at too, because some people are free with bouncing around, and some people want to stay local or wherever. Like, there's certain conversations you just have to have. Like, it's not only about emotion, and that's why they say, like, love isn't always everything. There's a lot that goes into it, because love can hold you down, but it can't keep you together.
No.
And I think culture too. Culture is important, because my husband is Black, I'm Puerto Rican, and culturally we are very different. His family's from down south, and we Puerto Rican, and sometimes it kind of just clashes, because my family is just like, we got to do everything together. Everything got to be done together. We doing this, okay, we meet it, we're gonna be there. and his family is like totally not that way.
Anya,
And he's
you
like,
not like my family.
I swear to you,
Yeah.
that's how it is. That's
It's
how
so
my
That
family is. It's like,
Yep.
and he's like, but why? But why you gotta do everything to like what's going on
Yep.
here? He feels like we're like a cult. And I'm like, no, we're not a cult.
We're
I
just
swear to
Puerto
you, we're not a
Rican.
cult. We literally are just Puerto Rican.
Yep.
Like, and I have a
it's so
very,
true.
my family is very large. I have
Yeah.
12 aunts and uncles on my mother's side and 16 aunts and uncles on my father's side. So my family is large. My immediate family is small because it's just me and my sister and, my mother, my father, and now we have the kids and our husbands and stuff. But my family overall is very big, super big.
Yep.
Oh God,
And
that
that
must
was
be
one
my
thing that we
drama.
always,
No.
that was one thing that we always had an issue with. Is like,
Yeah.
the
It's like how much time is
the
too much
hitching.
time with your
Right.
family.
Right.
No, I with that over involved family, I remember that when my husband proposed, one of the first things my mom said was, "Why didn't he do it with us here?"
Mm.
Because it's the like everything like they needed to. It has to be like a family thing. Everything is a family thing, and that shit is overwhelming. My
Super.
mom was with my dad for over 20 years, but she's quick to say she was just with my father because back in the day, you get with a man to leave your house. And she didn't like the situation that she was
Yeah.
in
That's
her house. So she said she has some love for him, but she got out the house.
Yeah.
So my mom really never had a marriage, even a common law marriage. My father was an alcoholic and she pretty much raised us on her own. She never really had a really stable relationship until now with my stepfather. So me getting married, she wasn't the best person to go to for advice because
Yeah.
my
Right.
mom is so independent that she doesn't understand the concept of marriage. Like she had a really
Agreed.
difficult time with me changing my name, my last name,
Right.
because she felt that was me losing my identity. And I
Are
was
you sure
like,
we're not
no.
related, girl? Because that sounds just like my mother. You sure we're not related?
That
Because
was my father who said
if
that.
that's not my mother said the same thing. She was like, ¿Por qué tú te vas a cambiar el nombre? Why are you gonna change your name? Why?
And
You don't need to change your name.
Yeah,
I'm
and she was
like,
like, but that's who you are. And I'm like, no, this is that was me before. This is who I am now. And she had a really difficult time. And the more I try to enmesh myself with my husband and trying to figure it out, you have to pull away. You can't stay that connected and try to
no.
connect to your
Yeah.
husband. So it's
And
going
that
to
causes
cause
conflicts.
conflict because then
Major
Yep.
conflicts.
they
Whew.
don't understand it because they didn't really. Okay, how do I say this without sounding disrespectful? The relationships from the past with the people that I know of are not the same type of relationships people are trying to have now,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because
That was
I
a good way of
feel
putting
I,
Yep.
I try to be correct. I'm trying to and my mom sees me being like me two becoming one the way I want to have my marriage. She sees that as a weakness, as me
Hmm.
being submissive to my husband. She doesn't realize that we're being submissive to each other.
Other.
She doesn't realize that we're serving each other. We're trying to figure it out. So I don't need to consult with you because you're not my husband, mom. You are
That's a
my
Right.
fact.
mom. I need to consult with my husband because he is my husband.
That's a
And
fact.
it's hard when
Right.
you're trying to, because all three of her daughters are married now. My mom's not married.
Mm.
So it's very hard when you have a matriarch of a family who doesn't understand what it is that you're trying to do and what you're going through because she didn't have that experience. It's
Right.
it's it's really hard. It's a lot of conflict, it's a lot of chaos sometimes, a lot of misunderstanding and hurt feelings. And a lot
Yes.
of guilt. A lot of guilt
On our end,
Yeah.
right? Because
on
Right.
it's
our
so many
end.
Definitely on
on
our
our
end.
Right.
end. Because it's
Yeah.
so many times it's the guilt. It gets me all the time.
What
And
is
I'm
it
like,
with the Spanish guilt?
why am I feeling this way? Like so it's like why? Why am I feeling this way?
I think it's
I think
embedded in our
I agree.
family gene
I think they
pool.
have a chip in us.
They
That's
put
they
it.
fucking
They put a
activate
chip
that
in
shit.
it. It's the Puerto Rican family guilt trip that is
Yep.
permanently embedded into our family history. That as much as you try to have a normal marriage, because what was the saying that they would say that men are brought up to leave with their wife's family kind of thing, and
men are made
Yeah.
for their wives' family
wives,
or something
right?
like that.
Yeah.
And when like the women thing, but it's just like it's just a generational thing that no matter what the woman always has to submit to what the family says.
You know
You
what's hard though? When you want to make your own traditions, like no disrespect to the traditions
yeah.
that we grew up with, but I would like to make my own traditions with my family.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to do that freely without having the guilt like I'm disrespecting my my other my not my other family, but like my extended family. Like
Right.
maybe Christmas Eve I don't want to be in a house with 50 people. Maybe I just want to be in the house with my husband and my kids, right?
Yep.
Why does that have why can't I just do that? Why does it
Because
have to
girl,
be all
it's
complicated?
Christmas Eve.
It's Christmas and it's Thanksgiving. ¿Qué te pasa?
Yep.
What you
You
mean you want to just be
go-
with your
Right.
kids? And no, we coming over.
You go to the
That's
family
what-
sala and you sit down in your
Who's
best
cooking
clothes
this
in their
year?
sala.
And
that's
what
That's
you
where we
cooking?
going.
But
Because you know
y'all
there's
never
certain
felt like
dishes for
that?
certain holidays.
Y'all
I
What?
feel
never
like
felt
that
like
all the
that?
time. I feel like that all the time because my husband is not used to that,
Yeah.
all that closeness. And sometimes
Yeah.
he's like, hey, I just want it to be us. And then I'm just like,
Yeah.
me too. But then I don't want to feel bad because
Yeah.
how do you be like, we're gonna do it at home this year, just us.
I
That
think you
sounds
have
really
to
like
I
We
think you
don't
have to
like
set
you.
that precedence though. It's like
you gotta start from the
okay,
beginning of the
from
year.
the beginning. It's
Like,
like,
hey,
okay, this year we're gonna do the in-laws on XYZ day. Next year we'll do it
Girl,
this day. But you know
That's a
what?
lot of
This
work.
following year,
it is.
let
It's
me
too
tell
much
you.
we're
work.
staying
When
home.
we did
Let
the
me
first
tell you something.
split,
Latina families, that's not happening.
You're
They're
gonna
gonna
make
be
remember
like,
somebody
that.
pissed no
they're
The
not
matter
gonna
first
what.
they're
year,
not gonna let that happen.
It's not a
the
under.
first year
It's
we
just
split
hard.
the holidays. The first year I actually said I'm gonna split a holiday. Bro, they almost locked the door and didn't let me in.
Right.
When I said we can't do two Thanksgiving, we gonna do one Thanksgiving, but I'm not coming over. It never happened ever again.
Girl,
Ever
Yep.
since then, I had
because
to figure it out.
because
Ooh,
that is the
child.
biggest thing in our culture is
Yep.
tradition. And my husband is black too, so I understand the struggle, and he does not understand the struggle. And to be honest, that's one of the things that we most argue about in our relationship is that he comes from a household where it's like every man for themselves. Okay, so he grew up in a household where you couldn't go in the fridge by yourself. So
Mm.
Hispanic culture is geared on food, family, music
Yeah.
together. That is what is engraved in us from our ancestors from years and years and years. So, yes, it is very hard when you get into a relationship. And Jasmine, I know you
Mhm.
talk about, but your husband is Hispanic, so he can understand the cultural, the togetherness of
Yeah.
families. Elise, your husband has many aunts and uncles, same type of thing.
Yeah.
It's different when there's a cultural difference. And that's
Yes,
why I
that's a
say
fact.
I can understand with Tanya because it's completely separate. You see,
Totally.
if my husband was Puerto Rican, he can understand where we're coming from. Or if he's Hispanic, he can understand the closeness of family.
But I
It
think
is
it's also a woman thing because my husband is Puerto Rican, but he don't have sisters, right?
right.
So there's
So
all
that
brothers. So they weren't brought up like you gotta
It's
do
different kind of relationships when it
Right.
comes
yeah.
to
right,
women, the
right.
women and the men.
But
Yeah.
culturally, but he's still gonna understand the importance of it.
Well,
You
yes, the
see what I mean?
importance is.
He's gonna understand that. When it's a cultural block, they're not gonna understand that because it's completely different on the other side.
Totally.
On the, it's very different with like, for instance, he don't mess with any of his sisters. He's like, I don't care what they doing. I don't care who they with, and there's not saying that every family is like that, but
Mhm.
especially growing up in the 80s, 90s during the crack era, my husband's family was very
Mhm.
dysfunctional. So he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't know the
Mm-hmm.
essence of family. He doesn't understand what it is for all of us to be in a living room dressed up to go nowhere.
Right.
So I
Oh, I
think when you're
remember
getting I think that when you're in a relationship, that is something else that you have to kind of take into account on both ends, right?
hmm
So yes, I need to understand that my husband doesn't understand that, but he also needs to understand that this is my dynamic. And it's like, to break something like that, to generate it, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to come easy.
It never is. It
Right.
never is. And those are hard conversations.
Yep.
Girl.
Hard conversations. I haven't had many of them.
Girl, let me tell you why. Because you internalize it. Because think about it. Your family is a piece of you. Yep. So I automatically internalize it when I'm like, what you mean you don't want to come to my family? Like, this is what we do. Like, why you... What's up? You know what I mean? He's like, but we
do it even when I don't want to do it.
Or that's what I mean. But you know what? I see. I am someone who loves traditions that way. So I'm not gonna. I actually love those things. I can't say that I don't. So I would be lying here to say that I agree with y'all, because Christmas is one of the most special moments for me. And it's like, yeah, I want to eat rice, beans, panin, and fucking lasagna with my family. So for me, I kind of embrace. And you know why? I tell you why, guys. Because my mom's 75 years old. So I look at shit like that different. You see, a lot of you guys, and I'm just giving it to you from a different side. I don't know how many more Christmases I'm going to have with my mother.
Right.
So I don't know, especially, so I take shit like that for me, and I internalize that, and I try to appreciate every moment, because there's going to be a time, believe me, Jazz, believe me, ladies, there's going to be a Christmas. There's going to be many Christmases that you're going to be left by yourself. Okay, there's gonna be many Christmases that you could be chilling with your husband and your kids. There, you guys are gonna have those moments. You may not always have those moments with your family, with your mother, with your father.
That's true, because they're growing old.
I mean, we already know that, as far as unfortunately for the in-laws, but it's.
I understand that, and I think it's situational, Zeta. It depends on where you are with your family, because I love my mom and I love my brothers and sisters, but right now it's not fun to be around them. So
no, I agree.
So it's not that necessarily like, yo, I don't want to be around them. It's like, I don't want to have those experiences. It's just that those experiences are not memorable. We're not gonna go there.
Pleasant. They're not gonna be pleasant.
That's a whole different situation. You know what I'm saying? There's stuff there. But think about for other situations where you actually do want to be around, but then there's also the line of like, okay, how do I make both sides happy? Right?
That's the problem. It's where, like, I feel like in my family, it's like it's the balance. It's like, listen, last year we spent all of the holidays with your family. I got to figure it out so that this year I spend it with mine. I know it's easier the other way around, but we have to figure out a way to make it work. It's like there has to be a balance, and it's just, it sucks when families in general, whether it be your husband or whether it be their extended family, who makes you feel bad about making a decision that doesn't necessarily include them. It's the whole process of you have to understand you're not the only people in our lives. You have to be fair, and you have to accept the fact that, yes, I didn't get to spend time with you this year, but I will next year, or vice versa. You have to be able to bend and be, compassionate and be accepting of that, because a lot of the times family, they don't see the bigger picture. They only see what they want, and that's it. They don't see that what they're doing is affecting other people. So you have to take into consideration the fact that you didn't marry just one person. You married a family. And their whole family. You married a tribe.
Tribe.
That's another conversation that you got to have too in the beginning with marriage and kids and all that other shit.
Be like,
what's up with your family?
You married me, and
what's
my
your
family,
deal?
And your family married my family too. I didn't just marry you, and you didn't just marry me. But the family needs to understand I married your family too. When everybody decided to get together, this is what it was. So don't act like an asshole when it comes time to holidays, and just think about it from the outside perspective. Not everything is personal. It's just you have to make everybody happy.
We Spanish, everything is personal.
I know.
What are you talking about?
It's true. Everything is personal. You're right.
They cursing you right now, girl.
I know. I saw our numbers drop a little bit, and I was like, damn, I wonder if that was my sisters. They were watching it. And they saw me talking shit, and now they got off.
I know. They're like, these bitches.
They're probably like, oh hell no.
Like, this bitch don't want to be here on Christmas. Check.
She ain't being invited. We're gonna act like we never had the
No,
holiday.
you know what it is. You know what it is. Honestly, guys, I just want to have the ability to be like, yo, I want to spend. I'm gonna make time to spend with my mother, and my sisters, and my brothers. I want to do it. I'm going to do it. I
Right.
love them, but I also want to be able to say, yo, this holiday we'll do Thanksgiving here, but maybe Christmas we want to do here,
Yeah.
and I want to
Yeah.
be able to do both because remember, what we're doing when we go to our family's house is following our mother's traditions. She
Right.
had the opportunity to make her own traditions or continue to follow her mother or her family's
That's a
traditions,
fact.
right?
Yep.
So allow me the opportunity to
To
be
do the
able to
same.
create some traditions on my own. And I think
Mhm.
that's where my struggle and my resentment comes from. I don't
Yeah.
feel that I have an opportunity to make my own traditions for my kids. I just am expected
Yeah.
to follow along because that's how it's just been done. And I think that's unfair.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
Very
Sure.
true.
I agree. I definitely think like everyone said, there has to be a healthy balance. And
Mhm.
for me, the biggest thing is communication. Um,
Is
you
key.
know, it
Yeah.
is so key because if not, you're gonna be fighting for days. And how stressful is it when you're dealing with something with your family and then you dealing with something with your spouse?
Yep.
It's
Mm.
all over the
It's nasty
place.
work.
You be
Yeah.
like, I
It
can't
is.
talk shit about either one of them to nobody because everybody's mad at me.
I've
That's
been
when you
there,
come to
girl.
us.
Been there,
That's
done
when we
that.
talk.
All right, so
Yeah.
let's go around the room now, guys, and say what do you think, and give me a range. What number do you feel like in a range? Because maybe you can't put a number on it. Is too long to wait. Let's let the girls who are probably watching this, or the women who are in a relationship and they really do not know how to maybe tackle this conversation. We should go around the room and say what advice we think we can give them, or how long is too long to really wait, especially for a man, because we haven't really even discussed the man's perspective, of course, because we're not men.
Right.
But I still think that we should really touch on, for a man, I think the ball is in your court, really. That's
Right.
one thing that I can say, is that if you got up on something in this situation, is that you have up on this.
Mhm.
Because if she's really liking you and digging you and she cares about you, you're gonna know.
Yeah.
So if she loves you and you willing to, like Jasmine said in the beginning, get into that partnership with that person, and you're really ready for that step, you can do it in 6 months, you could do it in a
Yep.
year, you could do it in 2 years, you could do it whenever. Now, if you waiting for her to get it, because there's all new norms now.
Mhm.
Women are
Women are
proposing.
proposing.
Yeah.
Women are
So,
proposing. Yes,
yo,
they are.
do you guys remember when Chrissy proposed to Jim
Yes.
Jones on Love and
Yes,
Hip
I
Hop?
remember that. I remember that.
I was shaking all types of head. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe she did that. But you know what? Now that I think about it, she knew what she wanted and she went for it. And did he say yes?
I
I think
remember
he
him putting
did
the ring
say
on.
yes. Yeah, I think he put the ring on and he did say yes.
But he never married her.
But I don't think till this day they're ever married. I don't think they got married.
No, they're not married. They're
That's some
still together,
bullshit.
but they're not married.
I
That's
think
some
it was
bullshit.
just, it just worked
she
out
got,
that way.
she got down on bended knee, okay?
Down on
Bended knee.
There we go. There we
I don't
go,
know if
guys.
I could do that. I don't know.
That's
I know I
that's
can't.
yeah.
I think that was great because like you said, she saw what she wanted and she went for it. But I don't know. I don't know.
Can't do it.
But
I don't think I could do it.
I think men know, because we make it a point to say, I want to marry you. We make it a point to say, let's talk marriage, let's talk weddings, let's talk this. I think it's harder for a girl to be like, let me propose to him, because or at least I'll be shitting bricks if I didn't know whether or not concretely that he was gonna say yes. Like,
Well, y'all lucky because all of y'all got proposals. I didn't get a proposal. I did not get a proposal.
So how did you agree to go to City Hall?
My husband was just like, all right, we're going to do this. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this. And that was it. It was no bending knee. It was no none of that. It was like, we getting married or what? And I'm like, yeah, we're going to do it. That was it.
But it's I think.
But at least you got to the point and he stuck with it. He could have two-stepped.
He sure did. Our relationship is very unconventional.
Yeah.
But it works
But it
for
works
you
for
guys.
us.
Yeah.
It works for us.
It works, and that's okay. So if I could give an advice to women, is if girls, women, whatever, is this is what I'm gonna say. You are ready. There is no time limit. It's
No.
really if you're ready and he's ready. I would suggest that from the very beginning, when you are dating someone, you let them know what your expectations are if a relationship gets serious.
Mm,
Because if you are the type of person that is looking to get married, then early on in the relationship, I'm not telling you to chase the man down and every man you meet tell him you want to marry him, but let him know this is how I see my life going when I'm in a serious relationship. I
right.
think that's something that we don't do because we're scared to scare him off or feel like we're too pushy. I think that women need to understand that weddings are not a marriage.
Yep.
A
It's
marriage is
just a
completely
party.
different
Yep.
than a wedding. A wedding is a celebration of two people coming together, but a marriage happens every
Woo,
single day.
Yep.
for
It
the
is
rest of your
work
life.
for the rest of your life. It's an action, and you have to be ready. So you have to do the work within yourself, and you guys have to do the work together. Anybody who's getting married, I recommend you guys to do some type of premarital counseling,
Mm.
because if you have trouble having those
I agree
difficult
with that.
Yep.
conversations in those counseling sessions, they will bring up those conversations. And it will either solidify that you want to get married, or it may make you guys take a step back and realize maybe there's a couple of more things you need to work on before you make that commitment.
Right.
And understand that marriage is not a fairy tale, it's
Mm,
real
mm, mm, mm.
everyday shit. And the beauty of marriage in reality is those difficult times that you guys go through.
Yep.
Because
Preach.
in those difficult times, that's when you have the ability to become vulnerable with one another, show each other that you are reliable, that you're trustworthy, and that you have that other person's back. And as you go through those things, you build trust. And that allows you to and then have the good times. The good times become more valuable because you have a deeper connection. It's
Right.
hard,
Yep.
but if you work at it and you find the right person, it is the most one of the most fulfilling things to know that you have someone that has your back
I
Agreed.
agree.
completely.
I agree.
So
Yeah.
that's my advice.
Definitely.
Tanya, what's your advice?
Um, like piggybacking off of Jasmine, don't put a time limit and don't pressure. That would be my number one advice.
Yeah,
Don't
not pressure.
don't put pressure on the person, but have these conversations. There needs to be a very, very large level of transparency. Like, because like I said, nobody wants to get hitched to a fucked up wagon. So
Mm.
you got to
Yep.
make sure that your shit is right. You have to have these conversations
Yep.
Especially if you just fix your fucked up wagon.
That's a
Yep.
Somebody gonna
fact.
hit you that.
That's a fact.
You don't
So
want
talk
his shit.
about finances, talk about religion, talk about children, and take it from there.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. What about you, Elise? What gems you gotta drop?
So you got your books, like the little
Oh,
reels. Um, no, in all reality, there is no time limit. There is no
Yeah.
time limit. But the fact of the matter is that if you're waiting for 10 years and you still haven't moved, a discussion needs to be had as to why.
yeah.
So you have to be on the same page. And if you're basically coasting side by side, living together, and you haven't made that leap, there has to be a discussion as to why it is that you haven't made that leap yet. Definitely conversations about, like you said, religion, babies, finances, where you want to live, family, sex, because
Ooh.
that is definitely a major, yeah, because that's a major thing too, because you don't realize how
Yes.
it's not necessarily sex because it's the action of sex, but there's an intimacy involved with it.
Yep.
Ooh.
So
Preach, girl.
you have to take that into consideration too. And I definitely agree with Jasmine saying that if you can, before you do it, go to get some premarital counseling. For me, it was pre-Cana. And even as weird as it is, because it's like you're going to counseling with a priest, they're actually really open-minded to the whole
I went with a
process.
pastor. My
Yeah,
pastor. Yeah.
they're really open-minded. I still to this day, there are times I'll look at the paperwork that we had because they ask us questions. and we look at each other's questions. They're the same questions, and you want to see how the other person answered them. So,
Right.
and then you go back to it. So even if it's just something where you don't even go to a counselor in the beginning, if you decide to do it yourselves, literally ask yourselves the same set of questions. If you want to do it together, fine. If you want to go apart and do it on your own and then come back and have a talk about it, then do it. It's just there are a set of criteria that you have to be on the same page on, or at least be willing to compromise depending on what it is. So those conversations definitely need to be had, because at the end of the day, let's be real, guys. You could go to City Hall and be married cheap. It's not
$75
expensive.
for the application.
$75 for the freaking wedding certificate.
But a divorce,
For the divorce is a
costs
hell of
you
a lot
of
more.
money.
So it's not so much about the wedding. You can get married and get married for cheap. It's whether or not when you actually walk through those doors to do it, you are already prepared. So there is no time limit. But I say there has to be a discussion to be had if you guys are still coasting by and you haven't made a decision as to what it is that you wanted to do after, several years. Because those discussions have to be had in some way, shape, or form.
I agree. I think I honestly think that's the biggest thing. I think that we can all agree on the fact that it's all about communication.
Mm-hmm.
And as awkward as it may seem to really get down to the nitty-gritty in your relationship, if you can't even do it in a relationship, don't even step into a marriage.
Nope.
That is my biggest thing, because if you're not able to have uncomfortable conversations with the person that you're going to be married with, then there's no point in taking that step. You know what I mean? Because it's only going to get harder.
Yeah.
Just know that.
Yes.
That's my advice. My advice is that if you're in a relationship and you're feeling unsettled and you don't feel kind of comfortable to have those conversations, I don't even think that you should be exploring marriage with that individual.
Right.
Because you have to be able to tell that person what you want. You guys got to be able to meet halfway if maybe that person doesn't want exactly the same things. So I would say, no, I agree. There's no time frame. It can be something as early as my situation, 6 months, or it can be something as 10 years. But as long as you guys are on the same page and you guys both agree to whatever the terms of your relationship is.
Right.
Because some people may agree like, yo, I don't want to get married. It's a piece of paper.
Yeah.
Right.
There's a lot of people who feel like that. Like, yo, what's really different? I love you. I'm faithful to you. I'm loyal to you. So there's not really anything different. So
That's
I think,
a whole
guys,
other different topic for a different
Listen.
hey,
Ain't that the truth?
you
For another
two,
day.
we have gave you an hour and 22 minutes and we are moms. So that was amazing. I want to thank
already
you,
know.
T, for coming.
Oh my God. Thank you, ladies, for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to share my platform, and just thank you for having me. Y'all super dope. I love y'all, and I don't even know y'all.
I know we feel the same, girl. We need to definitely do this again.
Yes, absolutely.
Drop everything, Tanya, where they can find you, where you have your podcast on, so that they can follow.
So Notorious Momz The Podcast.com. That's my website. I finally got it up after all this time.
Yeah.
I'm on YouTube, Notorious Momz The Podcast on YouTube, and on IG, Notorious Momz The Podcast. It's the same shit all over the place. It's just on different platforms. Oh, and on Facebook, Notorious Momz The Podcast on Facebook.
There you go.
So you guys know where you guys can check her out.
Y'all can
If
find
you
me.
guys want to get more of Tanya and her amazing perspective and her dopeness, and she's all New York. So if you want to get more of that, you
East
can
New York.
definitely East New York. I didn't know
Born
that.
and raised. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, East New York, girl.
Wow.
That's my stomping grounds.
Yo, I was just
That's
saying
too
we
far.
got all boroughs in the house because I'm from Manhattan. Jasmine's from the Bronx.
I'm from the Bronx.
Brooklyn.
Hey, Bronx in the house. I have a lot of friends in the Bronx.
And Elise, you from borderline Brooklyn and Queens, right?
Listen, I fucking moved all over the place. If I didn't stay somewhere, I spent the majority of my time in Brooklyn, depending on what part of Brooklyn, whether it be freaking Sunset Park or Bushwick, Ridgewood, Queens. I lived in the Bronx for about 2 years. I lived in freaking Manhattan for
Everywhere.
years.
A little bit.
She's
A little bit of
all the
everything.
boroughs. She's all the
She's a
boroughs.
New Yorker.
I'm a New Yorker.
So, guys, thank you guys for tuning in to Mama's Cocktail Hour. You know, you guys can follow us. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube page so you can be alerted when we have another video. If you guys haven't checked us out, you can check us out on our website, which is mamascocktailhour.com, or our Instagram, which is Mamas CH Network. We just recently changed that. So
love it.
Just be mindful, and we will see you on our next video. Thank you guys.
Thank you, ladies.
It's hot.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.